Fab. Thank you, everyone. I don't like to cut across when people are having conversations, but as Shana said, we're really tight for time this morning, so and we've got quite a lot to get through. So I'll start with some introductions. My name is Suzanne Sargent. I'm a head teacher from the School in Bridgend. I'm currently seconded to Welsh Government, and I've been supporting with the development of the community focused schools policy. And one of those aspects of the community focused school policy is family engagement, and that's going to be something, the basis of our session today, and really thinking about how we can use engaging with our families, how family engagement really supports the re-engagement of our children into school and into their learning, but not just re-engage the children, but also how we have to work with our families to ensure that the connections between our families are there so that they're supporting their children to re-engage. And if you're not too familiar with the community focused school policy, I do hope that you are, but in case you're not, there's a flyer on your sheet that basically gives you an overview of the model. So community focused schools is about schools understanding and strengthening three areas. So the ways that they work with their families, the way that they work with their communities, and the way that they work with wider agencies. And it's based on the principles that actually children are influenced heavily, obviously, by their families, but also they're influenced by those community factors around them, and that actually learning takes place everywhere. So of course a lot of learning takes place in school, but children spend more time out of school than they do in, and so those influences within the home learning environment in particular, with the family and with the community, are incredibly important. We also talk about in a community focused school approach, multi-agency working, and actually thinking back to the Minister's speech this morning and the increasing concerns on budgets, what the multi-agency aspect of a community focused school really acknowledges that schools can't do everything and shouldn't be doing everything, and that there are in fact many sort of specialist agencies out there that offer actually that are well placed to offer support to children, but it's about sometimes making sure that schools and the agencies are able to align and come together. So we're talking about schools not duplicating services, but certainly maximising and using those services that they've got within their community, third sector organisations, and the more specialist services, so that we all come together to make sure that we're aligned in supporting our children and our young people. So just an overview of the session today. You're going to be hearing from Sian Jones, who's the head of community focused schools in Welsh Government. She's also the head of attendance and the head of a whole host of other areas. I'm sure she'll go through those so you have that understanding. And then I'll be talking specifically around family engagement and just unpicking some of the things that schools are doing at the moment to support the re-engagement of their learners and their families. And then I'm delighted that we'll be hearing from Jenny Ford, who's the head teacher of Treorchy Comprehensive School, and she'll be talking about some of the community focused schools approaches that they've developed, but also their plans for the future. One of the main benefits of today is for you to have an opportunity to discuss and share and talk amongst each other, because that's where we learn, I think, the most from. So as part of the session, we will be having an opportunity for you to, after the presentations, chat about what you've heard, and then an opportunity to feedback, to ask questions, to share what you're doing, but also to share your concerns. So, you know, making the most of the fact that we've got Welsh Government colleagues within the room, and so that we've got to steer on how best to support schools moving forward. So I'm going to hand over to Sian.
Thanks, Suzanne. I just realised, are you okay to stay there with the slot? Yeah, brilliant. So Bore da, good morning everyone. Sian Jones, I'm head of the Supporting Achievement and Safeguarding branch within the Education Department. As Suzanne has hinted at there, my branch covers a wide range of things. Most of them are interrelated. They include community-focused schools, attendance, EOTAS policies, behaviour exclusions, you know, all the lovely things, and a number of other areas as well, including safeguarding and education. But community-focused schools is an area that I'm particularly passionate about, and I think it's got a real opportunity to hopefully support schools with all of the amazing stuff that's already sort of happening. But that's of course not to diminish the challenges that we're sort of facing. So it's great to see so many of you here. It's actually a nice position to be in, to have to turn people away, because obviously it shows there is a real interest in this area. So I just wanted to open up by saying that actually this is not unique to Wales. Most of you will be aware of that. This is actually a global issue. The OECD have looked at 27 countries, and there has been an increase in absenteeism in 20 out of those 27 countries. What's really interesting, because they've looked at practice from all over the world, as you can imagine. What's really interesting is, for example, New Zealand. New Zealand experienced no lockdowns during the COVID pandemic, yet it has too seen an increase in its absence. So I think what that does show us is clearly there is a sort of trend, there is a change in attitudes here that requires us to think a little bit differently. So they've looked, as I say, at a practice that's going on in 27 countries in relation to mitigating the impacts of COVID on attendance. A number of things were sort of drawn out by way of example. None of these will come as a surprise to you. Provision of mental health support, strengthening data collection, using that data you know, as an early intervention tools, all those things that we know about. But also engaging communities. There's some good examples coming out of Finland there, for example. England have also been sort of increasing their sort of focus on parental engagement, and there's a real strong multi-agency emphasis on the work in Ireland as well, which is very similar to what we're doing here, of course. So it is hugely varied in the responses that countries have taken. But what is consistent is that there is no single solution or one single agency that's going to be able to tackle this. So this is a really good diagram, but it's hideous to look at on a PowerPoint slide. But what it tries to sort of articulate, it's actually a Public Health Wales diagram, and we really like this because it really sort of articulates in a visual sense just the sheer complexity that sits behind the sort of attendance issue. So you can't see this, I'm sorry, but you've got attendance somewhere here in the middle, and then over here you've got all the family factors, wider community, issues related to the child and child-centred approaches, issues at home, and then education. And then all of those things sort of interconnecting to demonstrate that, you know, it's not one issue or partner that sort of needs to look at this. So, as I've already outlined, you know, this is an issue that's facing a number of education systems across the world, and there's not going to be a quick fix to this. I think the Minister was quite keen to sort of get that across in his speech this morning. And I think although there are clear trends coming through from the data, both at a national and more of a local level, I think what's trickier is actually getting behind the root causes and getting behind some of the nuance of that data, because we all know that you could have a classroom of 30 children who are all presenting with potentially on the surface very similar issues, but actually the way that they sort of manifest themselves in each learner can of course be very, very different. So you're constantly looking at those tailored approaches to try and get underneath what that data picture is telling us. So as I've already said, this is a sort of attempt at a visual at all of the different factors that can influence, and we obviously don't have time, unfortunately, to go into all of those today. But I think the sort of four key factors are the home learning environment and the availability, quality of support for learners, children and young people's mental health and well-being, and of course their levels of engagement with school. And obviously that's a key sort of message, I would say, that sits behind the new attendance guidance that we published back in October. I think the other really key thing to say, and I've already touched on it, and I think community focused schools approaches really sort of exemplify that, is that attendance is everyone's business. And that's why the guidance is really clear in articulating the really clear roles that other people in the system have, not least of all parents. I don't need to tell you that the change in attitude, not just amongst learners, but also in parents towards school, is markedly different. That's not to say that there was, always a universal sort of, but, it has changed quite markedly, and I think that's, that is an unavoidable sort of truth. So yes, attendance is everyone's business. But also thinking about it through the lens of the wider lens of community focused schools. It's not just about engagement with family, there is that wider multi-agency working that of course needs to happen. And yeah, just to reiterate what Suzanne said, really, schools, you can't do this alone. This is a sort of multifaceted and also probably a problem that in some issues is going to take sort of generations to change potentially. Yes, so that's just to sort of, not to be too depressing, but I think it's just important to sort of articulate the sort of magnitude of the problem that I think none of us here would want to oversimplify. Sorry, I'm conscious I'm going through quite quickly, but you don't really want to hear from me. It'd be good for you to hear from a bit more from Suzanne and Jenny and have time for discussion, of course. So yeah, the new attendance guidance, hopefully, which I suspect most of you have already had a chance to review and hopefully commented on during the consultation: belonging, engaging and participating. There are three key themes. There are probably no surprises on that slide for you. The importance of a learner-centred approach, making sure that that approach is personalised and individualised to address the specific needs of each learner, and we of course know that that will be hugely sort of influenced by their own personal characteristics, their home life, their experiences, also their parents' experience of school. Let's be honest, that can often play a huge can be a huge factor, of course. Learner wellbeing and mental health, again another fairly obvious one, but I think the pandemic has given us an even greater recognition of the social, emotional and physical challenges being faced by our learners and of course their families and you yourselves. I suspect we've all had our own sort of challenges to sort of overcome, and I think that's that can't be underestimated, I think, now in the current context. Whole system approaches, so not just whole school approaches, but whole system approaches, which of course feeds in really well again to the principles of community focused schools, which is around that multi-agency working, but again recognising that lots of different factors will influence a child's attendance and wider engagement with school. And I think the breadth and cohesiveness of the response from the education system, but also from wider partners, is absolutely key. Positive relationships, culture and ethos. So again, the learner's sense of engagement or sense of belonging with the school is obviously really important. A colleague of mine, you'll all be familiar with the SHEP, or Food and Fun as it's known externally, SHEP internally, that actually increased engagement with holiday enrichment activity actually showed to sort of provide a greater sense of engagement with the school actually during term time as well, which again won't come as a surprise for most of you, but again feeling that sense of belonging to the school and the wider community and feeling like they're part of something can have a real positive impact on children. And last but not least, which I won't say too much about because obviously Suzanne is going to far more ably cover, the family engagement element, which again links back to the sense of belonging to the school and the wider community. I think it's clear that all of these things are very interconnected. Oh, not last but not least at all, there is one more. Prevention, of course. Knowing your learners, understanding their own sort of challenges is obviously key to sort of identifying issues and hopefully addressing those issues before they escalate. Not always possible, I know, but I guess something that we would hope to see. So that's just a very quick canter through the sort of key themes of the new guidance. As I say, Suzanne is now going to sort of cover the family engagement elements in a little bit more detail. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
I'll do a swap with you.
Oh, I'm not standing right.
Oh no, okay then.
I'm
Right, I
always
won't
going to
come.
have something in between.
I'll stand
That's the
away.
teacher in me, I suppose. Okay, so I'm just going to talk in a bit more depth about family engagement and why it's such an emphasis actually within the guidance, and also why it's such an emphasis within community focused school approaches, and why it's central, I believe, to tackling the impact of poverty on educational attainment. So first of all, you know, there's a huge amount of research out there about the importance of families. Certainly the importance of families on educational attainment. Families, parents are the single biggest factor when you look at children's attainment, but also in terms of then how schools, when they adopt this sort of multi-agency, family, community, multi-agency approach, how that impacts positively on attendance. And that's come out through Estin studies, and if you've had an opportunity to have a look at their guidance on schools at the heart of communities, it talks a lot in there about some of the things that schools are doing, but also from the EEF. So the EEF last year did a rapid evidence review on attendance, and two of the things that came out as really promising within that were individualised approaches. So again, coming back to what Sian said about understanding the root cause of attendance, and does it sit around a misconception? Is there a barrier, some sort of socio-economic barrier? Is it something to do with sort of a curriculum issue or an unmet need? So individualised approaches came through in the EEF, but also working with families. It was interesting to note that a lot of the research has come from the States on this, and it was acknowledged that actually what we do need here in Wales and in the UK in general is more sort of research on this area. But certainly working with families has a positive impact on attendance. And actually in one study in New York that looked at community focused school approaches, attendance was the first thing to show a positive sort of change across all different school types. And also, interestingly, the schools that had high support for emotional well-being had an even greater rise in their attendance, so showing the interplay there between the two. So what can we do practically as schools to support our family engagement? Well, it won't be a surprise to note that the first thing is about relationships. It's all about relationships. I remember when I was a deputy, my head saying to me, it's all about relationships, and me thinking, okay, and of course it is always. But relationships actually take time, and they take effort and energy to develop and to establish. And so that's why we are saying that actually working with families in the community in a way that we talk about a community focused school approach is a long-term vision. And there are some things that you will see returns on fairly quickly, but there are other things that you have to sort of remain and bed in. So, you know, making sure that parents feel part of the school community, because they're much more likely to support the school, to support attendance when they do. And those strong reciprocal relationships are key. And so that sort of feeds through then, I think, those relationships into the ethos of the school. And I'm going to talk a little bit about individual and sort of specialist staffing, but actually working with families is a whole school approach. So families have got to feel that they know who to approach, that starts obviously with the sort of leadership within the school, and that developing relationships with families is a priority. So again, thinking about, well, actually, you know, is there a policy on how you engage with families? Is this something that is sort of discussed with the governors? Is this something that you see sort of central to your school improvement plan? So although it's a whole school approach, and that's incredibly important, actually what research shows is that when you've got staff who are dedicated to working with the families, that can make a significant difference. And the Minister referenced the funding for family engagement officers. So that's one of the reasons why we're investing, I say we, Welsh Government are investing so heavily into those posts, so that family engagement officers can become the sort of first point of contact for families. They can have flexibility in terms of their timetabling, they can meet families as they come in through the school gates, they're able to undertake sort of regular meetings with families, and they can take that leadership role and really coordinate the school provision to think about how best we can sort of, you can meet the needs of your families in your school. Family engagement officers aren't new, and you may have had someone in post for some time. I know many schools previously or and currently are using their PDG to invest in family engagement officers. From my point of view as a head, it's been really fantastic that now there is such an emphasis placed on actually working with families, and that's been recognised by Estyn through the research and in Welsh Government to be such an important role. I still think we've got a long way to go. However, additional funding for these roles, I think, is going to support. The other thing that is being funded at the moment is a community-focused school manager. So each local authority has got a community-focused school manager, and really it's their role to do a lot more of the strategic link-up that would happen at local authority level, and then feedback to schools to support you to understand how best to use the services within your area. So they might be undertaking community mapping exercises. They're certainly going to be looking at mapping out all of the services that you've got, for example, your family information service, Families First, and hopefully then sharing that with head teachers so that you understand actually what's out there. So if you're not aware of your community focused school manager, or if that's a role that's new to you, please contact us sort of at the end and we can share those details with you. So a couple of things that family engagement officers do that are particularly effective when you're thinking about attendance and re-engagement is home visits. And actually, really interestingly, England are now investing quite heavily in supporting and encouraging schools to do home visits. So within a primary sector, obviously that's much more commonplace. Nursery staff go out and visit the home, but when you're thinking about that systems map and all of those influence actually, particularly the home learning environment and how much impact that can have on children's engagement and attendance. Actually, when you do a home visit, you're in an incredibly privileged position to really talk with families firsthand and have a sense of their strengths, but also their needs and how you can work with them. And so increasingly, family engagement officers are developing that practice within schools. They also can focus on transitions. So both transitions sort of into school again at a primary level, but that transition between year 6 and year 7 that's so important. Actually, a family engagement officer that's working in a cluster will already know the families that are coming into you and will already have a huge amount of background information about that family and about those individual needs. So really linking up with that and supporting transition, it can be extremely helpful. And often we really focus our attentions on transition around the needs of the child, but actually we also need to think about how we can support families through that transition, because coming into a new school, they need to understand the policies that you've got, they need to understand the need to work with schools, and they, as I say, can then influence their children in terms of some of their decision making. Communication is key, and when I talk about communication, it's specifically around two-way communication. So often we'll have parents who say, well, actually I get loads of information from the school, but none of it's relevant to me, so I end up sort of not looking at it. Again, when we think about communication, research shows that it has to be targeted and specific. for families to take it on board. And again, that's something that your family engagement officer, or if you've got similar pastoral staff, can really help to unpick. What is it that, that parents want and need from us? I often, again, will have schools that say, well, I put on something and no one came. And sort of first thing I say is, what did you put on and why did you choose to do that? And often it's driven by us as opposed to really talking to and listening to our families and having them have the opportunity to say, well, actually, these are the bits that I don't know, or this is, this is the way that you can help. So really thinking about that communication. And then having families really sort of working in partnership with us. So this is something that we work with our families. We're not sort of doing to our families. And part of the way that can be developed is through sort of parents feeling that they can feed into the decision making in the school, through things like family forums or parent forums. So sort of different to a PTA, but having a group of parents that are there, that are sort of sharing their views, so you can really get lots of information through very quickly, actually, without necessarily doing big surveys about what they think. And one of the ways, obviously, that can sort of directly feed into this agenda is through actually saying, well, did parents feed into attendance policy? Were they there? Do they understand why we've made the decisions that we've made? Have we run this through our parents? So that can be something to consider. And then finally, a family engagement officer links in to support families with other agencies. So they've got that reach. If families are needing uniforms, or if they've got concerns about housing or food, or if there's a specialist need that we need to work with, if it's a CAMHS referral, a family engagement officer can really develop those pathways into other services because, as I've said, this isn't about duplicating services, it's much more about using the services that are already there. I've whizzed through about 6 months' work in 10 or 12 minutes. So I'm going to stop because I want Jenny now is going to talk, about how this looks, how some of this looks in practice. So hopefully that's okay, and you can ask some questions at the end. But over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. I'm slightly apprehensive now because I think I've been built up because we haven't solved this at all, and we are working really hard, as I'm sure everyone is in this room, to really try to improve, first of all, our attendance, and then all those other wellbeing strategies, so that we can meet the needs of these learners. So will you please understand that what I'm sharing with you, because I don't think you'll get anything new. I hope you might feel a bit reassured and consolidated, as I do, when I speak to colleagues about what we're all trying to do so passionately to help our young people. So I joined Treorchy in the January of 2021. It was the second lockdown in the pandemic, and what a strange time to be in education and start a second headship. What I did feel in terms of second headship was a sort of confidence after 5 years being in Swansea that strategies do work, and over time cultures change and you grow something. And it made me feel really, really confident to put well-being at the heart of everything. That was key to me, and I think perhaps in first headship, teaching and learning and all those things that are really important, but we all know this, if their well-being isn't there, they're not going to be in, they're not going to learn, they're not going to feel safe, and they won't be successful learners. So that was a huge reassurance in starting. And what we first did was created a vision. The school, Treorchy, had very clear values that have been in the school, but we really thought it was the time to create that strong sort of vision. And if you've got a handout, it's on the sheet in front of you, but one word summed it up for me, Cynefin. And I'd never been to Treorchy before starting at the school, despite being from Llangollen and the valleys, I'd never been up there, and you could feel it. There's colleagues in the room from RCT, there's ex-colleagues from Treorchy, they know exactly what I'm talking about. is something very, very special in the culture of the environment. So you have to harness that and get people to work with you. Everything that Sian and Suzanne have shared there is that sort of culture ethos. So that was really important to me. Our community, both the school community and the local community, which is very special in Treorchy. You know, High Street of the Year, or there's a real pride in the place. And when Suzanne came out to visit, and we went across to one of our partner primary schools, you can feel it. And what took at the High Street is very, very special, because those children live in the community, work in the community. You know, that their parents went to Treorchy by and large, and that's the environment we're in. So there's a little bit on the hand, there's a tiny bit of context, and again, trying to drive through what I want to put in place for the 5-year plan for the school. Now, this was very conscious as well, because we had that real self-evaluation time. In the lockdown, the children didn't come back to school until Easter as a phased return. So I had the time to really set out a 5-year plan. So the children coming to us in Year 7 in 2021 will be leaving in 2026. And that's a very concrete way, isn't it, of looking at education. What could we put in place for those young learners? So when they left, they're in Year 9 now, that cohort. And and of course, I'm responsible for every year group. But you know, when you start in a school, you were driving everything forward. So I felt that was a huge responsibility for the 5 years. And that vision led to a very strong 5-year plan with a very clear vision of what school would look like in 2026 for those learners. And how we're going to get them there. So of course, we write our plan, as we all do every year, but it's in the context of that 5-year plan, a real sense of what did we say we wanted in 2026. And it's brave. You know, I said 0 fixed-term exclusions. Now, we're not there yet, but exclusions have dropped dramatically. I am very proud of that in the context of, you know, a very challenging, we know our behaviours can be extreme. We know why, but, you know, so that, you know, again, that's what we're working towards. What I've added here then is perhaps trying to think through, and I like 10 things that create this sort of holistic way of making sure your well-being is the very best it can be. And so there are 10 bullet points here, which I'm going to just try to say a little bit about. Attendance, of course, you know, it's been flagged up here. Treorchy had very, very good strategies for attendance way before the pandemic, very strong. The school's invested in a post for GLSOs, Guided Learning and Support Officers. I think it was way ahead at this time. So those were already there, but of course we know post-pandemic it's been a challenge again. So like lots of you, we use class charts for attendance, lots of training on teaching staff to get our children to attend. Has it worked? We're slightly better than we were last year, you know, in terms of, so that by taking that 0.7%, you know, we know it's in marginal steps and we are working on it very, very hard. I have changed that GLSO role, changed the job description. When you read the job description, it's much more now around a family liaison officer, so visits to home, working far more in the community. So there's been a big change there, but real challenges, real challenges. Wellbeing and health is key to our work. Safe spaces. Those GLSOs in Treorchy used to be right across a very big site, 11 blocks, it's very big. I made the decision to put them in one space, and gosh, it ruffled feathers, you know, in my first year. They didn't like that at all. But the safe space was for the children. We called it our hive in block 2. It was really important the children all knew there was a staffed space they could go to and feel safe. Now again, this year, we've actually created 2 spaces because the needs we were facing as the constant self-evaluation, Key Stage 3 and a Key Stage 4 space, because those needs, those behaviours can sometimes be very different, and you don't want to almost create bad role models for some of your children, so that's been very important to us. It costs massively, and it's quite difficult to staff and keep working with, but I think it's absolutely important. And also, I'm sure this strikes a chord with all of you. We had something I've never seen before in my 5 years headship in Swansea. We had in the day truancy. I can see nodding around the room. Now, at least those children are in lessons for part of the school day, and we might have to agree, a safe space for them where we can do work in a different way. And some of our interventions, our ELSA, our work is, I'm trying to sort of compromise, meet halfway, work with the families rather than just have flat refusal. And then you're thinking, well, where are they around this school site? And how can I keep people safe, which is my first job. So that has been a big difference. The next big bullet points are around the curriculum. And again, I'm including alternative curriculum in here. The school had, we called it POD, Place of Development. It was on site, we made a big decision, and we did have local authority funding, match funding for this, which really helped to actually get it off site. And that's been a very successful model of including children who we were really struggling to meet their needs. Really struggling. And again, I'm sure lots of you are doing this in some shape or form. But that was something we were able to really work on, as well as keep reflecting on our curriculum. We were really proud to get the rainbow flag last academic year. We tied it in with all our Curriculum for Wales work, but really looking at diversity across our school, especially work around LGBTQ+, where, you know, Valley School, you know, gosh, we don't talk, you know, there's almost a culture of the whole, and that has been a huge part of understanding our children and their identity, their sexual identity, their understanding of each other. And we do a lot of work in our curriculum on that. We're holding a conference on the 8th of December, you know, on that, which is student-led. I'm really proud of that. They do an awful lot as well of social action on that, and we're an empathy cluster, and that's something we were part in Swansea and have carried through. We all know we live in a society where there's a huge empathy deficit, and some of those behaviours we are experiencing, you know, are a huge challenge to us, but unless we actually use the curriculum to challenge that, we know we're not going to change them long term. The curriculum's everything, isn't it? I know we all know that, but that's absolutely vital for us. Our Cynefin Day, which is the third one now in June, is a day where we work across culture, and it's bigger than a day, it's a sort of festival. Again, what we do as a school is a lot of mirroring and modelling for free of things that perhaps some of our students will not get. You know, if you work in a middle class school with different, you know, sort of social, economic, I suppose, plus points, your children might have gone to the Green Man Festival, they might have experienced that. Lots of our children won't. So we try to do things for free, but share and promote that and be part of it. What I like about our Cynefin, it's not just now become a day, it's a Cynefin curriculum. We use social enterprise and action. So on our Cynefin Day, there's a lot of work around supporting local charities, improving our community. Is a massive drive for us as a school. And just like you might get a nice Steddfod curriculum, you know, from January to March, especially in primary, we try to model that. It's very much about action and how we're developing that. I talk an awful lot about RADI. It's something that I was first introduced to in Swansea. I believe that once you've been introduced to it, you can't see education the same way. And probably you all do it. You poverty-proof your school. You make sure everything is through the lens of poverty, and what can you do to be inclusive? How can you solve that? It's that equity model that is so needed. That's, I don't know, it's a challenge for all of us. Again, if we're looking at that belonging and inclusion, student voice is huge. And we call it gweithred action. You know, it's not just voice, it's action. What are they doing? And they have to. Suzanne was talking about parents influencing policy, but our students have got to as well and be really part of it. I was really pleased when Suzanne came to the school. We've got some phenomenal sixth form leaders. They've led our school in a really strong direction. They actually took over a shed. They called it the shack, and they used that to really look at period poverty. They helped to spend that grant. They've grown and developed that now into wellbeing centre, into hygiene products. So before every school holiday, there's assemblies, there's shack. You know, really model this idea of sharing with the community and getting rid of that stigma that, you know, it's wrong to get free product and to share that. And I know lots of us are doing that across culture. What I like with the Shack, they work with Treorchy Primary and the Big Box Boyd. So we don't have to replace everything from scratch. If the primaries are doing it, we're part of that in our school. So the sixth form leadership, but also now we've changed our whole model that's working through every year group to get that social action. I keep saying this, I'm sure you're all doing those things, but it's something we've really tried to push. Very passionate about holistic assessment, driving everything. That the data around the child is much more than data, it's key information, it's knowing our children, absolutely knowing and understanding their needs. So we've built a very good sister. We do track their well-being, the Boxall profile, the PASS survey, the attitude to learning. Buy-in's everything. I keep saying that. If our children buy into what we are creating for them and want it, and there's that hunger in their belly, they will work with us. And I also hope that when the children understand, and I'm delighted when year sevens talk about their CAT scores and what it means and chatting together, and this is a joy of assessment, isn't there? There are gaps in learning, there's gaps in my learning, and I want to close those gaps. So the culture, we have drop-down sessions where we have owning your own data, and we do those after every data drop, and staff have been trained to really look at this learning with children and get that sort of hunger, I suppose, for improving, which is massive after the pandemic, huge. If we get the well-being and the attitude to learning, the buy-in, the attainment will come. We all know that. They'll get as far as they can. We are trying to work really, really well and creatively in working with parents to engage. And this is something I was very fortunate last year to work with Welsh Government. I had some really good professional learning with different organisations about not just involving parents with parents' evenings, but really trying to train parents in workshops to upskill them. Again, the obvious things. So we're just starting now with our primary. We used our CLAR funding to work with from students in year 5 right to year 7 on an impact model around literacy, reading and writing. So the parents are trained to work with their young children and to really sit down. And we've seen I have seen first-hand evidence of that with a 5-week model. So we're really excited about that, and so I can't give you impact yet, but I really do feel that's going to work for us. And finally, and I could have done this, I could have started with this, couldn't I? Your professional learning for your staff, which is what we have to prioritise and choose. It's limited, we've only got so much finance, has to underpin that vision, has to underpin the why of what we're doing. So, and keep coming back to evidence-based research and the impact. Treorchy is a bigger school than my previous school. It is, it's a hard thing to shift, but that culture, 3 years in now, and that 3rd year in what we call it our strategic plan, remember that 5-year vision, those children in year 9, this has to accelerate now, that impact. And the staff have got to be working together in our teams, because we do work in teams, to make sure we're making that key difference. So it's a lots and lots of different things, a cocktail, I suppose, I wish it was, of factors that we really do think and know. And I do have that confidence, I suppose, from leading a school. We are going to make that difference. And my job is, I suppose, to keep the staff focused on that the children come into school, feel there's a belonging, it's their school. Not my school, it's their school, our school. And, we can be really proud of everything we achieve in Treorchy, because, just like I said at the beginning, it's tangible. It really is a wonderful place to be.